Good day. Salams. Seer 121 here. I'm going to read from the Tao Te Ching today. And this is translated by Stephen Mitchell. The only amendment I'm going to make to my reading is where they say master, I'm going to say teacher instead because the word master is deeply rooted in the transatlantic slave trade, and teacher is a better fitting word. Other than that, I'm just going to read straight through, and then after my reading, I may or may not have some of my own comments and thinking, depending on what the reading inspires. Once again, this is the Tao Te Ching, translated by Stephen Mitchell. 1. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. 2. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess, acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. 3. If you overesteem great men, people become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. The teacher leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place. 4. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. 5. The Tao doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. The teacher doesn't take sides. She welcomes both saints and sinners. The Tao is like a bellows. It is empty yet infinitely capable. The more you use it, the more it produces. The more you talk of it, the less you understand. Hold on to the center. 6. The Tao is called the Great Mother, empty yet inexhaustible. It gives birth to infinite worlds. It is always present within you. You can use it in any way you want. 7. The eternal, 7. The Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born, thus it can never die. Why is it infinite? It has no desires for itself. Thus it is present for all beings. The teacher stays behind. That is why she is ahead. She is detached from all things. That is why she is one with them. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. So I'll read one more. This is 8. The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus it is like the Tao. In dwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare to compete, everybody will respect you. So, a couple of things are coming to mind as I'm rereading this. I haven't read this for a few years. First is the first line of this poem of this book, Tao Te Ching. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. I always think that's like the coming. I studied sociology for many years. So coming from a sociological background, I feel like he uh, who Lao Tzu Lao Tzu wrote this originally in Chinese. I feel like he has the ultimate CYA, which we when in sociology we always say cover your ass when we're doing any talking about certain subjects or research that could turn out to be proven differently, like in future researches. So we say cover your ass, meaning like put something in your papers about that, just that this is all subject to change, and we could find something that contradicts our findings in 2 years from now. So I feel like that's kind of this. The first two lines of the Tao Te Ching in English read, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao." I feel like that's the ultimate like CYA, cover your ass, because that's how he opens the whole collection, and then basically he goes on to attempt to tell what the Tao is and what the Tao is not. Uh, Sip my tea here. So I have a couple reflections on that. One is I think it could be possibly a less serious approach. It could be like a humorous, like because attempting to explain or teach something like the Tao without humor is going to be very difficult, and I feel like as a student of the subject of the Tao, it begs the student to approach with a light, open heart. And I feel like this is almost like a joke that Lao Tzu threw in here just to begin with, like almost as if he's trying to communicate that it's impossible to really put what we're talking about into precise words that's going to capture it completely. And also, it's impossible to really understand it fully and to grasp it fully. And even the subject matter is not against or for, but grasping actually is not even something that will benefit the student. It's more, we're talking more about being, right? We're talking about more about presence and being than we are about a thing that can be grasped. We're talking about energies. We're talking about really vibes. Like we say vibes don't lie here in the West, but yeah, that really is true. That energy and vibes is what we're talking about. Something that is unseen but felt, and something that cannot be spoken uh, if it is to be the eternal version of it. So also knowing that that word eternal is in here is that just because what he's saying, what he's writing about in these pages is told, yes, it means it's not the eternal version of it because it's being told and written and put in this book, but that doesn't mean that it can't be illuminating. That doesn't mean that it can't, that because he's telling this, it's not eternal, this version, but that doesn't mean that that we can't gain something from attempting. So from the attempt, there's something valuable, I feel like. Um, so that being said, another thing that sticks out to me is he says the teacher leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. So again, it's this yin and yang, right? Like in the West here, we don't really have a firm grasp on or a firm understanding of yin and yang, of balancing, because in the West we tend to center one thing, like only like we like to have one thing and then make that the centerpiece. So like we have one president, or we have we have one party that we vote for, whereas in a more balanced approach, we might not see just one person as the leader of a nation. We might see that the nation is leading that one person, for example. But we don't look at it like that. We look at it like, I don't have any readily other examples readily available, but yeah, we think in dual terms where in the duality of things is that we're not seeing the whole duality as we just see one part of it. And I feel like with a book like the Tao Te Ching, this book, part of my approach for this and part of something that I learned from this was to right was to look at things as double-sided. Like look at both. There's two sides of a coin. There's night and day, right? There's two things oftentimes that are of the same pole. And then this book really opened me up to the natural law of polarity too, because that's a yin and yang situation, right? Where when we can know that every phenomena in this universe exists as a polarity, and that there's degrees of each polarity. So that's what I was thinking of when he says, by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, and by weakening their ambition, toughening their resolve, is that uh, ambition. So ambition is like, it's when it's taken to an extreme, and even when it's, I think when it's nation, it's an escapism. It's like it's a way to escape this moment right here. And that being said, like, yeah, I've been in situations that I needed to escape, right? Like, uh, and ambition is one way to escape a situation that might be bad, by either imagination, right? And maybe both, not either, but both and, right? Again, to the yin and yang is imagining yourself as something else. Imagining yourself, you have the ambition to imagine yourself as a richer, more monetarily advanced person. That might help you escape your current predicament of being whatever you're in. If you're in dire straits financially, ambition will get you out of that situation first mentally, and then once you kind of start formulating ambition and mentally envisioning yourself as this person of high wealth, let's say, mentally you're escaping your predicament currently. It's possible mentally to put yourself somewhere else. But then with that ambition too, you start, um, with true ambition, I feel like you start doing things that will physically bring you out of your predicament. Okay, but what he's saying here is, the teacher leads by weakening ambition and toughening resolve. So I feel like if we have a polarity and we have a yin and yang situation of on one side here is ambition, let me set this down, and on this side is resolve. Um, what would be, to me, I feel like it's not necessarily worthwhile to pick one over the other. It's just worthwhile in this context of Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. It's worthwhile to understand both of them and understand what he's saying is the teacher, the leader. The teacher is a leader. So the leader, and in the term master, I don't know what that translates back to the Chinese, but we're talking about someone who is advanced in their understanding and advanced in their capabilities and their knowledge. So it's not just like a somebody who you're gonna um, everyday Joe, right? Like we're talking about somebody who is a leader of many people and then is a leader because they've earned that position by being uh, worthy of following. So teacher, a teacher in English might not have the best strength either. I think master definitely doesn't in English, but teacher I think also doesn't. But maybe we say sage. Okay, a sage, that might be a better word. I'm not sure what the original Chinese word is, but back to ambition and resolve is that from a teacher's perspective, and I'm just going to speak from my perspective here, not a teacher, or a master, or a sage, or nothing. This is just seer 121 here speaking. Resolve to me is better than ambition. Okay, because a couple things. And why a teacher, a sage would want to lead people towards resolve and away from ambition, in my mind, it's this. So let's say I'm in a terrible position, and think of any terrible position you've ever been in. I know a few that come to mind that I've been in my past. Um, Ambition will help you escape that position mentally first, okay? And then also ambition, one thing, if you're strong enough and you're sincere in your ambition, is ambition will allow you to start doing things too, really physically and spiritually, mentally, all that will allow you to get out of your position, to move from your position. First, it happens mentally, where I see myself in a mansion with 3 Mercedes Benz and a Humvee and a hot tub in the backyard and a full pantry, and I have all these women at my house just knocking on my door, just begging me to take them out to dinner, and suitors, right? And they'll do anything for me, and they'll fall to my feet, they'll kiss my shoes, they'll shine my shoes, and I have a view of a lake. I've paid somebody to create a lake, carve a lake in my backyard, and I live in a mansion. Okay, but my current predicament is uh I'm in a one studio shack with roaches, and I'm in a room in the roach motel, let's just say. But my ambition is helping me escape this mentally, and then let's say it's sincere ambition, so that I have this first vision, this ambition vision, and then let's say it is sincere ambition. So the next day I get up and go out and get a job, and I go out and not only do I get a job, but let's say I get 3 jobs. Okay, let's just put a pause there, a comma there, and then go to resolve a little bit. Um, so resolve is not going to bring any of that. Resolve is not going to put my mind in a mansion with a lake in my backyard and women kissing my shoes and full pantry and all, yada yada blah blah. Like, resolve isn't gonna mess with none of that. So in the long run, this is the thing: is ambition is a short term thing, is decent, because yes, escapism is decent if your situation is terrible. It's good to escape. Sometimes I can relate to wanting to escape shitty situations. And then let's say ambition carried to its end is like, you do get that house, you do get that lake, you do get that all that stuff. Okay, I'll just say that, like, your ambition is sincere and you get all that. So kind of we're balancing two things here. And resolve, though, on the other hand, is resolve is something that it doesn't matter what your situation is. If you have a true resolve, it doesn't matter what is happening. You're going to make it through, because you have the knowledge that you're capable. You have the resolve. You have the sturdiness. You have the firmness. You have the uprightness. You have all that stuff that's inside you. So resolve is something that comes from within. It's not something about, I need to go get a mansion and 3 cars and 3 Benzes and a lake. Like, that's not at all. It's not anything to do with outside. So what we have to do now here is, let's go back to this. By weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve, that's exactly what it is. It's a mental fortitude. It's a toughness, and it's a knowledge of self resolve. That no matter what happens, I'm going to be all right. And oftentimes that resolve is tested, right? That resolve, that knowledge of self is tested, where, like, you have to kind of sometimes dial back and, like, examine, and you have to look at yourself. Okay, and resolve brings all those things. It brings self-examination, it brings determination, it brings all these things that are inside you, and it brings them out of you and brings them into the manifested realm. So resolve is, to me, and this is just my perspective, is that resolve is far and wider better than greater than ambition. So, because if we take these to the end, resolve might not get you out of the Roach Motel. Actually, ambition might not either. But let's say it does. Uh, ambition Carrying ambition to its end, and a true ambition, it gets you out of the Roach Motel, and then in 5 years, you're living in that house, the 10-bedroom house with the lake in the backyard, carved by man-made hands, women falling at your feet. Ambition can bring that stuff to you if it's true, and you stay, you're on your grind and you're hustling. Ambition can bring that stuff to you, but the thing is, take it to its end. Ambition doesn't have an end, bro and sis. Like ambition just it's going to create hunger. It's going to create more desire. Like ambition begets ambition. And I mean, I guess there's some people who are cool with that. That's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to knock those people. You can't knock the hustle. I'm not hating on nobody who has ambition and who has done those things, has got the mansions and got the 10 bedrooms and the women shining their shoes every hour or whatever. I'm not knocking that. Like, that's cool. That's fine and dandy. All good. But for me, just from my perspective, that's not for me. Resolve, to me, I'm in more alignment with Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching here. That resolve to me is, yeah, maybe you don't get out of the Roach Motel, but you know what? You have the sturdiness, you have the firmness in your heart. You have these things inside you that no matter what's happening outside, you're gonna be all right, and you'll fall down, you'll get knocked down, um, and you're gonna pick yourself back up, and you get knocked out, you come back to, you're on the ropes, you're getting rope-a-doped, whatever it is. But if you have the resolve, you can withstand anything, any of those challenges, any of those tests, any of those brutalities that life throws your way. You have the resolve, and you're gonna be all right. And ambition, also, the thing about ambition is ambition doesn't shield you from life's rockiness and ups and downs. Um, Money doesn't shield you from heartbreak. Money can't shield you from despair. Money can't shield you from a dark night of the soul. Like, that's all human things that are independent of wealth and richness in monetary fashions. But resolve can. So resolve can. It's not going to stop these things from happening. But if you have resolve, you're strong enough to withstand the storms of life. Whereas if you take time cultivating ambition and you kind of neglect your resolve, you neglect your inner resilience, you're going to be thinking that you can just throw money at any problem, which is not how life works. So the teacher leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think they know. Um, so I don't think I know nothing. Okay, that's the thing too. I don't think I know anything. There's some things I know that I know, and then there's other things where I know I'm not. I don't know what I don't know. Like, just certain shit. I don't know. Uh, what happens after you die? I have no idea. I do not know. Uh, or what is if it's a mathematical question, what is the square root of 9,467,000? Like, I don't know that shit, bro. But what he's saying about the teacher is the teacher creates confusion in those who think that they know. I mean, with these days of social media, this is 3. When these days of social media, you got hella fools saying they know all kinds of things that they don't know, talking out of their turn, talking out of their skulls, right? And I think part of a teacher, from Lao Tzu's perspective, and I would agree with this, is part of the responsibility of a teacher is to, yes, uh, show people the light, show people the truth, and teach people what is known about whatever the subject is. And then also part of this teacher's responsibility, which this is, I would say, this is probably the passive function of a teacher's lessons, is to create confusion in those who are not ready but think they're ready, or to create confusion in those who maybe don't have the humility to listen. Okay, so um, that, and because from that confusion is either going to inspire them to listen, or it's going to inspire them to tune even more all the way out. So somebody who's tuning in a little bit and just thinks they know something, but they're just not really in the know, but they're still paying a little bit of attention, but not all the way there. Part of the teacher's responsibility, I'm interpreting from Lao Tzu's words here, is to create confusion in those people so that either they're inspired to tune in, actually sincerely tune in, or they're inspired to continue in their confusion. Okay. Um, and one thing that, so as an aside here, since I'm kind of jumping around, one thing that irks me, uh, where is it? Oh, he says, it is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. Like that's a tough one, right? And I'm trying not to be too Western, like hold my chest out, right? Because I know this is a translation from the Chinese. So and this translations, as translations go, is they're unique to the translator. Oftentimes, they're not always. It's not a exact science. So there is some interpretation going on here, and yeah, it is older than God. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how to interpret that, but I'm not going to let that take away from basically all the gems that proceed and succeed in this. So, but that's one line where I'm like, yeah, I wonder. I would almost want to study Chinese, learn Chinese, just so I could go to the original Chinese of the Tao Te Ching and like figure out what the glyph was that Stephen Mitchell put older than God, what the glyphs were, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes me wonder. Um, and I think one thing too that I used to do when I first encountered this Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, I used to basically ascribe, oh, this is their version of Christianity, or oh, this is their version of Judaism, oh, this is their version of Islam, right? But I don't that now that I've spent more time with this and I'm matured mentally and spiritually and everything, that's not I don't think that's a safe assessment. I mean, you could rock with it for a little while, but the more you read this, it's like, oh yeah, this is actually, for me, the function of this book in my studies and my scholarship has been to supplement and complement my study of scripture. And like one thing I love is in Buddhist texts is and Buddhist history and everything is that there's actually a lot of similarities between Buddhism and Islam, um, and Buddhism and classical Christianity too, before it got bastardized in the American sphere of uh, culture. But um, yeah, I mean, Buddhism connects to Islam in many different ways. Like for example, I was reading the other day and I see that dukkha, suffering in Buddhism, dukkha. I think dukkha is a Sanskrit word. It's the same word in Arabic. Dukkha, Dukkha, means translates exactly the same from Arabic to English, and then English to Sanskrit is dukkha. So it's just curious that I find little things like that in my studies that I'm like, oh, that's really dope. That's really really cool. And then so why I say that to say this is that Buddhism connects to the Tao Te Ching because Bodhidharma traveled back in the day, traveled from India up to China, and he was the one, as the story goes, who was responsible for bringing Buddhism to China. And Lao Tzu is Chinese. I don't have the exact dates in mind, so I'm not sure if they existed in the same time. If you know, maybe drop me a comment and let me know. But what I'm saying is there is a cultural web of Chinese literature that this book, Tao Te Ching, is definitely a part of. Okay. And there's a cultural web of Buddhist literature, and I'm really intrigued, and it's really interesting to me how these webs interact and how they conjoin and overlap, and how there's just I'm talking about just in idea form, in ideas and in thinking and in the writing. Um, I mean, I have some sutras up on the shelf, and it's just interesting how there's similarities, and I love to see the connections here. And then that brings the West. Kind of the West is like this other kind of wraith that adopts some of these terms and meanings and connections. And then it's strange, and it's I still interesting to see how there's deviations once some of these things come to the West. Once this book, which was written originally in Chinese, but you see it's English here. Once this gets translated into English, it's like a whole nother thing from the original. Um, and I'm not so much interested in, like, I don't think it, I know there's folks out there who think like this, like, oh, it needs to be purely translated into the exact meaning, the literal meaning, and we since it's not in Chinese, then there's no worth or value in it. I hear Western people talk like this, or like they're basically, look at that beautiful painting too. I hear Western people talk like this, like, and it really feels like a form of racism almost, where like they're just rejecting the idea that, or the fact that ideas can be translated across languages. It's not going to be the same exact thing, but the value still can be even replenished and can be increased even in many different instances when it's translated. Like, I mean, there's Western books that gets translated into Chinese. I think that's a beautiful thing too. Uh, I think we need more bridges across cultures in the world that do the work of showing us connections that are human. Like Lao Tzu was a human being who wrote a book called the Tao Te Ching, and here it is in the language that's my first tongue, and many other people's first tongue is not Chinese. And the fact that now we have these ideas in our language, it's something new from the original and inspired by the original. I think it's a beautiful thing, man. But also we got to know too that it's not the original. So it's like a balance mentally of just keeping a good perspective and a good approach. Um, I'll do one more. I'm at 33 here. Okay, cool. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. So I love that too. That's a Buddhist. I'm just talking about connections between Buddhism. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. So that reminds me of Shakyamuni's teaching that one of the noble truths is that the attachment to desire leads to suffering, or is the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering? One of the causes of suffering is attachment to desire. So Lao Tzu is saying, free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. I'm thinking, yeah, there's a lot there that could be said, but I'll go to a part that I haven't read, and that's where I will end it on 30. Let's go to 35. She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. She perceives the universal harmony even amid great pain, because she has found peace in her heart. Music or the smell of good cooking may make people stop and enjoy, but words that point to the Tao seem monotonous and without flavor. When you look for it, there is nothing to see. When you listen for it, there is nothing to hear. When you use it, it is inexhaustible. Assalamu alaikum.